continuous flow of information about the companies they're following and about the markets they cover so that they're better at what they do. And that synergy, we call that convergence, it's a part of Causeway. And I'm convinced that that's where the whole asset management industry is headed. That equity managers will need to be a fusion of fundamental and quant because they're so synergistic.
So two existential threats to active managers have emerged in the past decade or so. ETFs on the one hand, and as a byproduct of that, fee compression on the other. What's your strategy for surviving those threats?
ETFs, and personally, I have against mutual fund taxes, and sometimes it just seems unfair. You haven't done any trading and say you have a tax bill. So there will always be the tax-exempt investor who will like mutual funds. But for the taxables, I can understand the migration to ETFs. And not to mention, as securities, they're tradable, and sometimes they help fill a gap in terms of one's own portfolio allocation. So Causeway would like to be in ETFs. We're just very slow and gradual on what we do. And as for new vehicles, we get market intelligence. We have an extraordinary business development group run out of Philadelphia. And then we plan and then determine just how we're going to enter either a strategy or a marketplace and do so in the most intelligent way possible. But as for, and that would be active ETFs. Passive is slightly different. And there's nothing wrong with passive management. I have some passive funds personally. The problem I have with passive is it's a direct beneficiary of the tailwinds of all this monetary expansion we've been talking about. And if the era changes, it might be a little tougher for passive. In fact, I'm sure it will be. And meanwhile, with active management, there's always that opportunity to outperform, which does not exist in the passive environment by definition. So passive has a place, but active is where the action is.
Sarah, as you look into the future, what looms as the biggest obstacle to success for Causeway?
We discussed earlier, Eric, this creeping nationalization or socialization of risk. If we get to a point where central banks, because treasuries have borrowed so much, and I'm not just referring to the U.S., but with debt to GDP at levels where rising cost of debt service is such that rate rises just can't be tolerated, that just will make it tougher for us because, again, we're not value investors, we're valuation investors. Valuation is at the heart of everything we do. So if valuation becomes disconnected or de-emphasized, less important because momentum continues to be the only game in town, that would be tough. You don't just become a value manager, you almost have to be born a value manager. My colleagues are some of the most frugal, cheapest people I know. But that's great. Turns out that makes them ideally suited to find what others have designed. But there has to be a re-rating mechanism. A stock, the company, through its own management, through its own operational restructuring, has to show improvements. But then we need to see the market focusing on that and re-rate it. And in a low to zero rate environment, investors may not care. The race to design the most powerful computer processors is one of the most intense sports in the tech industry. When Lisa Su, an engineer by training, took over AMD in 2014, she not only became the first female CEO of a major semiconductor company, she also kicked off one of the biggest transformations in industry history, turning a lagging maker of low-end chips into a juggernaut known for the superior performance of its products. Shares are up more than 2,000% under her tenure, and AMD chips, short for Advanced Micro Devices, are now embedded in everything from Microsoft's Xbox to Sony PlayStation and Apple Macs to massive data center machinery. Semiconductors, the brains, or you could call them the guts of all of our devices, never got that much glory until the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, when demand for chips shot up so much so fast it triggered an unprecedented global shortage, raising alarm from Washington to Beijing. Joining me now to talk about when the chip shortage will end, how she turned the company around, and what's next for AMD on this edition of Bloomberg Studio 1.0, AMD CEO Lisa Su. You called 2020 an inflection point for AMD, given the robust demand for everything from PCs to consoles to data centers and laptops. If 2020 was an inflection point, what's 2021?
It's a great question, Emily. You know, I think when you look at the pace of technology, right? We've been developing, these technologies for like 5 years, right? So we made these decisions on, hey, this is where computing is going. And 2020 was a phenomenal year. We grew revenue 45% year on year. It was an inflection point for our business. Now, as we come to 2021, what we see is it's a mega cycle for compute. I mean, it's like, if you had asked me a couple of years ago, would we have this kind of demand, whether you're talking about, PCs or gaming products or the data center, I would have been surprised. And so it's a mega cycle for compute. And on top of that, we have, just extremely strong, product portfolio and so on. So yeah, it's a mega cycle. That's what I would call 2021.
AMD chips are at the heart of the Sony PlayStation, Microsoft Xbox, laptops of all kinds, Apple's Mac Pro, Amazon data centers. What are the new products that you have targeted to meet this new demand?